Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Hey, really glad to have you along with us for the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. We have good, we have bad, we have crazy martinis today. We're going to be talking about the Cuomos. We're going to be talking about the American people wising up to what's in this disastrous Build Back Better, allegedly, legislation. And we'll talk about a weird new Twitter policy towards the end. We're brought to you by wonderful sponsors again today, one of which is Ritual Multivitamins. And in addition to providing you quality vitamins in that multivitamin, we also deserve to know what we're putting in our bodies and why, especially when it comes to something we take every day. Ritual's clean, vegan-friendly multivitamin is formulated with high-quality nutrients in bioavailable forms that your body can actually use. But what you won't find there are sugars, GMOs, major allergens, synthetic fillers, artificial colors, none of that stuff. But it does have a nice fresh taste to go along with the quality vitamins, and the delayed release capsule makes taking your vitamins easy. I can attest to that. I've taken Ritual multivitamins, and I think they're doing a good job of helping me stay healthy.
Ritual is the multivitamin reimagined. Now, a multivitamin should contain key nutrients in forms that your body can actually use, so that you can help fill in gaps in your diet and with no shady extras. Ritual's delayed release capsule design delivers high quality nutrients, including vitamin D3, in just 2 daily pills. And Ritual is made traceable, which means you'll always know what nutrients you're taking and where they come from, thanks to Ritual's one-of-a-kind visible supply chain.
So get those key nutrients without all the BS. Ritual is offering Three Martini Lunch listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. Visit ritual.com/martini to start your ritual today. All right, Jim, let's start with the good martini, of course, and that is the latest poll out of Rasmussen. Yes, Joe Biden is still underwater. That doesn't surprise many people. 43%, I think, approve, 52% disapprove. But this signature piece of legislation that is just absolutely required for us to fully recover economically and otherwise and build for the future, not popular. Most of the key provisions here deeply underwater, which means, once again, the American people are doing an excellent job of paying attention. We love to see that. Hopefully a little bit of it's coming from listening to this podcast, but let's look at some of these numbers. When informed that the Build Back Better authorizes various payments to illegal aliens, 60% disapproved while only 28% approved. As far as the bill's provision to give the IRS more access to personal financial information and bank transactions, 73% are opposed. A rather obscure facet providing a tax credit of up to $50,000 to print journalists, which we've talked about, wasn't popular either, with only 19% approving it. But it doesn't stop there. Guaranteed basic income is also a loser. If a person is physically capable of working, 78% believe that they should have to actively look for a job before receiving cash payments. A slim majority, 53%, want to keep Medicare the same as it is now, while just 34% want to see it expanded. Jim, what do you make of the American people clearly understanding what's in this bill and not wanting much to do with it?
The first thing I want to emphasize to listeners, Greg, is that this comes from Scott Rasmussen, the actual pollster who's now publishing at scottrasmussen.com. The company that has his surname, Rasmussen Reports, he sold to another group, and that they have traditionally given like the most, I don't want to say Republican leaning, throughout the Trump presidency. Rasmussen Reports generally had the best numbers for Trump and the worst numbers for Democrats. So if you want to dismiss them and say, they have their thumb on the scale, fine. Okay, this is from Scott Rasmussen himself. And I think the other thing you should note is that if you look at all the other polls he's done lately, generally they are in line with what you'd expect. Biden's at a 43% approval. 49% think that relaxing COVID restrictions would be good for the economy. 30% say it would be bad. 81% say inflation is an ongoing problem. 9% say the worst is behind us. 43% say Rittenhouse did stupid things but is not a murderer. None of those numbers jump out at me as saying, oh, wow, that sounds weird or doesn't look right, or I don't really know. That's all in the ballpark of where at least I would think public opinion would be. So, does this mean these numbers are absolutely true? Look, this polling is always a moving target, but none of these numbers seem crazy or irrational, or you're wondering if people misunderstood the question or something like that. And the other thing is, you look at these splits, 60% disapproval, 28% approval. 73% opposition to giving the IRS more access to personal financial information and bank transactions. Look, let's say Scott Rasmussen is off by 10 percentage points. Those are still really bad numbers, right? You can give the Biden administration the benefit of the doubt on every one of these questions, and it's not going to be all that different. Their agenda is still particularly unpopular. And also, I think maybe even more important than the unpopular, it doesn't feel connected to what people are worried about right now. Inflation, supply chain issues, paying for gas, paying for food. Look, those, you're talking about kitchen table issues. Food is what you put on the kitchen table, right? This quite literally gets people where they live. And I think you probably could throw in a great deal of the pandemic and worries about Omicron and things like that. So like you add all this up, the idea of, we need to do a whole lot more spending and we need to finance, local news journals. No, that's not really what people are worried about right now. We need to pay illegal immigrants. No, that's not what people are yearning for. This administration and their congressional allies just seem really out of touch and really disconnected from what people are really grappling to deal with at this moment. So you add all this up, not only does it, I think, it lessen the chances that Build Back Better will get passed. I think it also suggests that if Democrats do pass it and this will help save us in the midterms, there's really little reason to think that. And that I think right now the biggest fear is that they may think that the getting wiped out in the midterms is baked in the cake, so they might as well pass what they want to and not worry about the consequences.
No, I think you had a really good point on this a couple of weeks ago, Jim, maybe even more recently than that, and that is that these numbers should be a deterrent to Democrats passing this bill, particularly a couple that come to mind in the U.S. Senate and maybe some in the House the next time it comes up there, because obviously the Senate won't pass the same version. But there seems to be this mentality. We saw it in the first couple of years of the Obama administration when Obamacare was deeply unpopular and they just jammed it through anyway. And that's that, maybe it's worth it to not be in the majority as long as we get everything we want on our wish list. It's not the way to stay in power, but it's the way to definitely make sure that their policies are in place pretty much in perpetuity. Good point. You had a good point.
I agree with that writer, Greg. He's a wise guy. He knows what he's talking about.
All right. Well, we had a change of plans over the holidays. We were supposed to go visit my wife's side of the family, but one of my daughters came down with COVID. Very mild case. She's fine now. But we couldn't travel, and so we had to, think of different options for meals. And one of them that we're super glad that we had on hand was bacon-wrapped filet mignon from Omaha Steaks. So, we did have the turkey on Thanksgiving, but we also had a fantastic meal with those steaks. We still got the burgers. We're looking forward to those. And so it wasn't the holiday we expected, but it was kind of a nice twist. A stay-at-home Thanksgiving, and Omaha Steaks definitely made it better. But the holidays are also around the corner, and finding the perfect gift can be tricky, but Omaha Steaks makes it easy to send friends and family an unforgettable gift guaranteed to be loved. What you need to do is go to omahasteaks.com and enter Martini into the search bar in order to order the perfect gift package. For $99.99, you'll get 24 entrees, like the world-famous bacon-wrapped filet mignon, chicken breast, sides, desserts, and so much more. And when you use the promo code Martini, you'll also get an additional 8 Omaha Steak burgers free with your order. So we've heard all the reports about shortages and shipping delays. Don't wait. Order the perfect gift package today at omahasteaks.com, and you'll get 8 free burgers when entering the code Martini. Achieve gifting greatness with Omaha Steaks. Incredible flavor, incredible value, and 100% guaranteed. I can certainly attest to that. omahasteaks.com, keyword Martini. All right, Jim, on to the bad Martini, and this is news that broke yesterday afternoon. CNBC, actually, with the lead on this, and we kind of knew about Chris Cuomo's involvement in his brother's damage control operation in the New York governor's scandal months ago, but now we know that it's deeper than he admitted to the public, and certainly we would expect to CNN. The story says Chris Cuomo was actively in touch with Melissa DeRosa, who was the then governor's top aide, about incoming media reports that detailed alleged sexual harassment by the governor, according to exhibits from the Attorney General's probe and a transcript of his interview with the state's investigators. He also lobbied to help the governor's office as it sought to weather the storm of accusations, and he dictated statements for the then governor to use. Quote, "Please let me help with the prep," Chris Cuomo said to DeRosa in one message in early March. Then 3 days after the New York Times reported about how the governor, Cuomo, attempted to kiss a woman in an unwanted advance at a wedding, Chris Cuomo texted DeRosa, "I have a lead on the wedding girl." CNN issued a comment hours after the publication of this article saying the news organization would be reviewing the documents. And so they're going to seek additional clarity. Jim, so some people say, well, blood is thicker than water on this. Doesn't excuse the lying, obviously. But Jim, this is a major member of the mainstream media who lied to his employer, lied to the public, and was actively involved in his brother trying to survive a scandal. So the question now is, does Chris Cuomo survive at CNN?
Interesting. We were just kind of discussing this with a couple of my colleagues, and the only reason for keeping him, if you're CNN, is that, well, the right time to fire him would have been at any one of these previous terrible revelations. So at this point, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? And also I do wonder if the Zucker and the other executives at CNN will have this mentality of, if we fire him now, we're admitting the critics have been right all along, when we have been adamantly insisting, no, this is, much ado about nothing. And we've had a tough talking to with Chris Cuomo. He's not going to do it again. But Greg, listen to it. Are you telling me Chris Cuomo lied? Indeed, it is true. The other thing, which we were contemplating this. Look, he may get canned, and I hope certainly he deserves it. It's not justifiable. I don't I did it because I love my brother. Well, if your brother was an axe murderer, would you do the same? And I guess at this point, it's a hypothetical example, but maybe, Greg, we do have to wonder, is Andrew Cuomo an axe murderer? Because he did kill a whole bunch of senior citizens by sticking them in nursing homes when COVID was spreading. The other aspect, I only thought of this, and I don't think anybody else has been, reminding people of this. It was a little less than 2 months ago, September 24th, 2021, in the New York Times. Big headline on the op-ed page. Chris Cuomo sexually harassed me. I hope he'll use his power to make change. By Shelley Ross, who is a veteran television journalist and former executive producer at ABC and CBS. And she was his boss at ABC News. And apparently they're at some party and he grabbed her tush. And he thought he was going to do it in a fun, joking around way. And he did, by the way, he did this in front of the husband. It's Shelley Ross's husband. It's kind of never mind, is, Chris Cuomo lucky to be employed. He's lucky he has all of his teeth. And I, by the way, would strongly recommend, don't try this on Mrs. Garrity or Mrs. Columbus. I don't think you'll just get a tisk, thing. And oh, by the way, Shelley Ross had the email, a printout of the email from Chris Cuomo, June 2005. This was years and years ago, but it was apologizing, and he said he was ashamed and all that kind of stuff. So why would Chris Cuomo bend over backwards to protect his brother from accusations of sexual harassment? Because he's a sexual harasser too. Because they're two guys cut from the same cloth. There is no, it's all about sibling loyalty to family. No, there's nothing noble or honorable about any of this. This was one guy who's a creep trying to protect another guy who's a creep. And if this doesn't, I really kind of wonder, where are the cries from within CNN? Because there are a bunch of people over there who I'm on good terms with and respect, and they don't seem like horrible people. They seem like the kind of people whose skin would crawl at the thought that somebody in their organization was acting as Andrew Cuomo's enforcer against the women who were coming forward with him about sexual harassment. On the one hand, this may be finally comeuppance for Chris Cuomo, and I think it kind of demonstrates that his critics have been, just as with Andrew Cuomo, the critics were right all along, and a whole bunch of people really try to gaslight you into believing, it's very complicated, he said, she said, or Chris Cuomo was just talking to his brother and trying to be a supportive. No. This was effectively the merging of one of the biggest institutions in the mainstream media and in one of the worst, most corrupt, most selfish, thoroughly unprofessional, thuggish governors we have encountered in quite a while in this country. And everybody involved should be ashamed of themselves. And my sneaking suspicion is, Greg, a lot of people really want this to get, swept under the rug and forgotten about. Much like Chris Cuomo's sexual harassment, which was on the front page, which was on the op-ed page of the New York Times less than 2 months ago. Absolutely no consequences as far as I could tell.
If you're waiting for the network that kept Jeffrey Toobin to do something about Chris Cuomo, you're probably going to be waiting a while. But Jim, I'm just imagining the Cuomo family Thanksgiving dinner this year and the argument that the brothers could have had, and Andrew Cuomo saying, "You didn't help me enough." And Chris says, "I stuck my neck out for you. I could lose my job. You wrote these statements for me and I don't have the job anymore. You failed." And then they wrestled over the wishbone.
The only sad thing about the comeuppance of the Cuomo brothers is that it occurs just as you have absolutely nailed the Cuomo accent. I'm very, Cuomo staying in power would have been good for you and doing that impression. That's the only good thing that would happen. And we're glad he's gone.
Well, we're going to have an interesting governor's race next year. We just got a Democratic congressman throwing his hat in the ring. Swozy, I think is how you say that. Tish James, who's a radical leftist, but has played this brilliantly politically from running the investigation to now running for governor. And then you got Kathy Hochul, who's basically Cuomo's dictatorial personality without the groping. So it's going to be quite the primary next year. And that's even without throwing de Blasio into the mix. So have fun, New York Democrats.
Let the rumble begin.
Yes. All right. Before you rumble, though, you might want to make sure that your portfolio is doing well, whether you're invested in Wall Street or beyond. But with the dollar struggling a little bit, maybe it's time to diversify with gold and silver. And look, the price of silver has increased 340% since 2000. It continues trending higher. And if you want to explore investing in gold and silver, there's no better place to do it than Universal Coin and Bullion.
Universal Coin and Bullion is offering our listeners a special locked-in price of just $30 for a beautiful 1-ounce 2021 American Silver Eagle coin, the most popular coin in the world for collectors and investors. This limited offer is available at dealer's cost because Universal Coin wants you to own the first newly designed silver bullion coin since President Reagan signed the Gold Bullion Act in 1985. Call Universal Coin, the leaders in the precious metals industry, at 1-800-UCB-GOLD to get your beautiful U.S. Mint silver coin for only $30. Postage is free, and you'll be dealing with the experts.
And don't forget how much you can trust the folks at Universal Coin and Bullion. In fact, the company's president, Dr. Mike Fulgens, is recognized as America's gold expert by the U.S. government. He's also the 2021 Coin Dealer of the Year. They also have rare gold coins, but this special silver deal is only available using the code Martini. So call 800-UCB-GOLD. That's 800-UCB-GOLD. All right, Jim, we have a crazy martini here, and it relates to yesterday's breaking news, I think, that Jack Dorsey is out as the head of Twitter. He's stepping down. He wasn't forced out. So there's a new CEO on the way, and he's the former chief technical officer. But there's a new policy that can get you in trouble on Twitter. They already have things like, sharing people's home address or physical location, divulging their personal identity documents and that kind of thing. But the new thing involves media of private individuals. You can't post media of private individuals without the permission of the person or persons depicted. And so this, seems like the Project Veritas policy, really. But it goes much broader than that. I mean, that could involve media really of any kind, Jim. And there was more than one reply suggesting, does that mean law enforcement can't put up video asking the public to help identify people, or putting up a photo of a wanted criminal, or putting up a photo of a missing child? I don't know if that's exactly what they intend or if they're going to clarify the policy, but the idea that, if you want to do any sort of journalism or anything else on here about exposing criminal activity or what have you, that it seems like Twitter's calling that off limits now.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things to keep in mind is that this is their response to these types of complaints. So I don't think it's a blanket, algorithm that's going to scan and somehow figure out somebody to, if somebody, we have this person is not given their permission, we must take this down. This is how they're going to respond to complaints of abusive behavior. And I think first of all, I concur with the assessment. It's very tough to believe that this is coincidentally coming out with the change of leadership. You have a sneaking suspicion that this was probably something that Dorsey did not like and that the new guy does like and wants to put into place. And I guess, as with almost every other rule and law on the books, it depends a great deal on how it gets enforced. It depends a great deal on the judgment of those. And we've, to use a comparable example, most of us believe that there should be a speed limit. I, like many other people, believe that other people should have a speed limit and I should not. I'm a bit like David Letterman trying to get home to Connecticut in that manner. So the idea is that we should have some speed limit. The question is, do you want the cops enforcing it for anybody who's going 56 in a 55 zone? Or do you want it enforcing on people who are genuinely going way too fast and who represent a potential danger or threat to others? You see this kind of thing about, non-consensual nudity, abusive behavior. We all have this, horrible nightmare, this thought of somebody taking images of us and putting it up on the internet and saying false. Oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. Having said that, all of those exceptions or complications or all the stuff that you listed there, you can see how, almost any rule in the hands of a arbitrary, capricious, one-sided biased, axe to grind like Paul Bunyan type person, administrator over Twitter, can be abused and can end up with something terrible. So I'm going to wait and see on this. I don't think this is quite as simple as they want. I think they've had complaints about it. And I think you said, yeah, what's probably going to happen is let's shut down anything associated with James O'Keefe, even if they're exposing genuine wrongdoing, because by golly, they didn't get the permission of the people who have been caught on camera, saying things that they never want other people to know about. But at the same time, we will not respond to complaints that this is being unfairly applied to people on the right or something like that. I'd love to be proven wrong, but Twitter has not earned a lot of trust in this. All kinds of cancellations and suspensions of accounts and shutdowns of account have been done with very vague descriptions, and it certainly seems to happen more to folks on the right than the left. I'd love to be proven wrong, Twitter. Restore our faith. My guess is that this will be every bit as bad as we suspect.
No, I think you're exactly right about that. The double standard will be glaring, kind of like it already exists in the media with Hunter Biden or other political offspring, depending on the party. So anyway, we'll see what happens, but not headed in the right direction, certainly in terms of freedom of speech. But Jim, busy day as always. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Do subscribe to the podcast. If you don't already, tell your friends about us as well. We are very grateful for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast and follow us on Twitter. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great Tuesday, and please join us again on Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch. Hi, this is Greg Corombos, and I'm here with Dr. Mike Fulgens. He's the president of Universal Coin and Bullion. Mike was recently named the 2021 Dealer of the Year by the American Numismatic Association. Mike, obviously the economy is pretty uncertain right now. Inflation concerns are front and center. So how can owning gold and silver coins really provide folks some peace of mind these days?
Well, gold typically goes up in times when other investments go down. Experts call it a negative beta. And the World Gold Council has shown in studies that a portfolio that has 10 to 20% weighted in gold outperforms one that doesn't. So think of it as life insurance for the rest of your portfolio. And I predict gold will break $2,000 next year due to the increasing national debt, inflation, and the increased spending we're seeing happening with the infrastructure bills that passed and are hopeful to be passed by the Democrats.
Dr. Mike Fulgens is recognized as America's gold expert by the U.S. government. Contact Mike and his team of professionals at Universal Coin and Bullion to own your gold and silver coins now. Call 1-800-UCB-GOLD.